Hi guys, I'm just going to do some labs for ESXi for virtualization. Um, so here I created a little bit rough diagram which we are going to perform in the labs. So first of all, we are going to install server A, and then these services we are going to install on the server A. Like we are going to put a DNS, we are going to put Active Directory, and then for file storage we are going to use a NAS. Okay, and then we're going to install NAS. NAS would be like we are going to install a true NAS, or you can say free NAS. Okay, so both are almost same. So we are going to install this one, and then we are going to install ESXi A and ESXi-B, and these are IP addresses we are going to install, and then we are going to install or configure vCenter on ESXi-B. And some operations we are going to do on ESXi A. We are going to create a new VM, and then we are going to clone the new VM and VMwares, and we can create a templates, and we can migrate. All these operations we are going to do in these coming videos. Maybe I'm just going to create a one video, or maybe I'm just going to create a series of video. Let's see how it will go. Okay, so I have created some management so we can monitor our labs. So here you can see I created it's a main drive. I'm created a folder called labs. Then I created a VM lab. So here I'm just going to put all my VMs relevant to this lab. So it in that way we can manage all these things in a proper way. So every one folder for each VM: ESXi A, ESXi B, EX server A, and then storage NAS, or you can say storage or NAS. It's because we are going to use the storage uh, for NFS storage for the ESXi for this lab. Okay, once we start, you will figure out what we are going to do here. Okay, here is my lab. Okay, so this is my VM workstation. So I'm using 16 intentionally because it's compatible. So backward compatibility will not going to have any issue. If you are working with your home computer, then maybe you are using the version 17. Doesn't make big difference. Okay, so I'm just going to start with the first labs. So I'm just going to create VM machines. So here I'm sticking. I will install operating system later. So there is a three options. Okay, so here I'm just going to put my Windows server first. Okay, so you have to select which operating system, then which version. So I'm just going to install 2019. Here you can see you will not going to find 2022 here in this VM workstation version. But if you go up then the 17, probably you will find 2022 server 2022 as well, but it doesn't matter too much. Server A. I'm just going to put my I'm just going to put my VM on the place where we created this. So server A, and I'm just going to put a BIOS. Okay, and I don't need to change any processors. It's the same we are using. So but RAM I'm just going to put in the first. I'm just going to put 8, so we will configure and finish this thing, but after that I will reduce this RAM to 4 after installing and configuring server, because normally laptops have 32 gigabyte RAM, but our lab need a lot of RAM. So that is why we are just trying to manage our resources. Okay, but if you have enough RAM, if you have 64 gigabyte RAM, in your laptop or in your machine, then you don't need to worry about it. Okay, here I'm just going to use host only network. We are going to do on this whole lab. In some part of the lab, we are just going to connect with the bridge mode as well, or not, to get internet access when we're going to add a second card. But here we are just using only host only network. Okay, and don't need to change anything from here. I'm just going to use NVMe and going to create a new virtual disk and storage. I each have to check how much storage we need. Normally 50-60 gig is enough. Okay, so we are just going to put a 80 gig. Okay, I'm just going to do this thing and finish. I'm just going to put this thing here, and I'm just now going to add ISO image for the server labs. For server, it depends where you stored all these images. Wherever you install the images, you just give the path, and after that you boot this machine. If you are coming from server background, you maybe you did these exercise multiple times. So uh, so if you can skip that part, if you know already this how to configure server and all these things, configure server and active directory and all these, then you can skip all this stuff. But so I'm just going to do to save a little bit time. I'm just going to do all these things together. I'm just going to, when I need it, I just move this thing, and once I configure, because sometimes these things take time to install all these things. Meanwhile, I'm just going to select English Australia, keyboard same. I'm going to put a click on install button. Okay. So it sometimes take. Meanwhile, I'm just going to create another machine for ESXi A. So I do not have a license yet. Okay, so you don't need a license for trial. I think maybe 6 months, and you select the last one. Customized. I'm just going to use whole disk. Okay, now it's going to copy. Meanwhile, it take a little bit of time. Sometime it depends on the disk. So meanwhile, I'm just going to go and create another machine for which one we should put first. Okay, create a ESXi 7 ESXi A. I'm just going to put in the same place as we did before, ESXi labs, ESXi A. Okay, and here you have to be careful, but ESXi A need only 8 gigabyte RAM, but B needs 16. Okay, so there will be same process which we are doing for ESXi A, and same process would be there for ESXi-B. Okay, and be careful about storage as well. So we need to have at least storage 2 disk of 80, or I'm just creating a 150. I have enough space, so I don't it's too, but I have enough space, so I just keep 150. So because I'm just going to do a little bit experiment on these things. Okay, so machine is created. Meanwhile, you just to check the Windows operating system. It's going on 41%. So it will going to take time, another 5 minutes. So meanwhile, we'll go here. I'm just going to add another mesh ISO image with the disk. So I'm just going to do same drill. So I'm just going to back ISO image It's going to add the image, bootable image, and here I'm going to click on power on virtual machine. So this one I'm going to install ESXi A. Okay, and this would going to take time as well, a little bit. So meanwhile, this is booting, server is a booting. So I'm just going to here. I'm just going to put this one here. Okay, and let's create another machine. Meanwhile, that they are booting. Okay, so another ESXi. So I'm just going to do a little bit faster. So if you want, you can slow down with the just slow down the video. Okay, and same drill. Labs B. Okay, and here I'm just going to put 16 gig because we need this 16 gig RAM, because we are going to do some we are going to install vCenter inside, and vCenter required at least 12 gig minimum RAM, so that is why it's necessary to put 16 gig, otherwise you're going to find an error there. So I'm just going to put another 150. Okay, we can change this thing and just keep 150 comfortable space for these things. So if you want to create some data storage or anything, it would help us. Okay, it would not want to give us trouble. So let me see, this is still going on, and this is still going on. We're just going to add another same drill. We are going to add bootable disk to ESXi. Sometime it happen because ESXi A is going on. Okay, and using same image. Okay, and here I added another same image with this machine, bootable machine as well. So sometime it can give you trouble, so it's better to wait till it just getting installed. So meanwhile, I can create another machine for NAS. So there is a trick here. It's just because we have to choose a different kind of machine called B free BSD. So it's a Linux based. It's a base for installing our NAS. So I'm just going to put a NAS. I'm just going to select the same drill. We're going to back there and going to put I'm going to put storage and NAS, and next just going to put the RAM for 8. So it's asking 8. Okay, for starting time I'm just going to sorry so for the starting I'm just going to add what you say is just going to put storage 8 gigabyte RAM, but after that when we finish all these things I'm just going to reduce that I'm just going to reduce that uh, RAM, because we don't need too much RAM for this NAS once it's configured. Okay, I'm just going to put a how much disk is asking. So I'm going to put 80. So it totally depend on your space, like how much space you have in your. So I just created all the machines, and let's go back on ESXi A. Is still taking time. Server, this is a good. So I'm just going to put. So this is server is installed. So I'm just going to put a password here, and it's going to take another time, little bit time to configure. Oh, it's good. So I'm just going to put login into it. Okay, so first thing what we need to do is we install a VMware tool, because it's very important for this exercise, and it's tricky because you click here and you put click here, and then you're going to find a image attached as a CD drive. See here, VM tool, and you have to double click, simply double click, or just setup, click on setup. And so what this tool will going to do, it going to facilitate your copy pasting from your host file to the for host file to your in VMs. And if you want to drag some softwares from your host computer to I'm just going to put a complete installation. Okay, so meanwhile it's getting installed, I'm just going to check it out. ESXi A. So asking enter, it says accept, I'm just going to accept it. Okay, it's just giving some trouble. Come on, this is not right. F11, F11. Okay, and rebooting server will shut down, reboot process will take time. So meanwhile I'm just going to out and boot this thing. ESXi-B. Okay, it says cannot connect to the virtual device because the personal device available. Okay, I think I didn't put the disk with it yet. Okay, I'm just going here. I'm just going to add ESXi ISO image. Now I'm just going to boot it now. Come on. Okay, attempt to understand. No media found. Okay, let's check it out. Why it's showing that thing? Oh, so sometime the disk is not connected. So I'm just going to click here. Now it should come up. So now it's booting. It will take time a little bit. Meanwhile, what? Okay, so one thing I have to remove this thing. Okay, normally ESXi. Okay, did you find the problem? Because that's what I was saying, that okay, if you are, so device is disconnected. Okay, clicking here, and I'm just going to do again. Let's come on the server. So it is finished. Now it's going to ask reboot in the server, and both are going through. Okay, let's leave them alone for a certain time, and then we'll fix this. Meanwhile, I will fix this NAS stuff. I'm just going to go here and going to add softwares, DNS. Okay, and we're going to boot NAS device. Okay, entered it. Sometimes student get stuck here. It just start rebooting again. But be careful what when you install, what instruction come on the screen. Just read carefully. Like here, installation. Then you have to press space. It's written inside, but if you read the last line, okay, and putting password. Okay, so boot with BIOS. So this will going to take time. So meanwhile, we'll check these other stuff. Now it's good. So now meanwhile, all these things I'm just going to install Active Directory and okay. So first of all, you can see here in the local server. So what first I need to do? I'm just going to change the few things. I'm just going to do it. First of all, I'm just going to change the IP address for this. Okay, and here I'm just going to use local IP addressing static, because if you're not going to do this one, Active Directory will going to give you give you message that okay, you do not have static IP addresses. Same DNS. I'm just going to use this thing. Okay, and I'm just going to restart, not restart, sorry. Here I'm just going to refresh it. Okay, IPv6, I'm just going to disable it. It's not necessary to disable IPv6, but I don't know why I disable this thing, because sometimes can give you a double IP issue sometime. Not always, but now I'm just going to give you this one, and now I'm just going to turn off the fire. Let's do firewall after that, after installing Active Directory. So here I'm just going to add new Active Directory. So the Active Directory domain services, added DNS. Okay. Okay, so meanwhile this is doing, let's check the other part. Okay, welcome to VMware installations. Most system, but only system we have capability. Perform enter. Just going to put F11. So it's going to scan it for available devices. This may take a few seconds. So here I'm just going to have, okay, so click enter, and keyboard should be default. Password should be whatever password you wanted to put, you can put. Okay, but make sure you remember that password. Now I'm just going to put F11. Now start installing. Meanwhile, let's check out this one, same drill. Okay, F11. Enter US keyboard, password. F11 installing. I think it's just taking time. Okay, the free. So here we are in the FreeNAS. So FreeNAS installations on successfully. Please reboot and remove the media. Okay, rebooting. Just going to reboot the system, and we should have. Okay. So it's installing as. Okay, meanwhile it's just going on. We'll check this stuff and going, because this will going to ask restart. So we're going to promote this thing as a domain controller. So you can choose whatever name you wanted to choose, but as we are used to with this adatum, so just going to use adatum.com. Okay, here just wait a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to put a password here. Maybe some student did this multiple times, so if you know all these things, so just can skip it. Meanwhile it's processing. I'm just going to check the NAS. So I'm just going through it. NAS is installing. And let's check the status for ESXi A and B. Okay, so here reboot the server. Okay, so be careful when you have to go ahead and we have to remove the disk. Okay, and then we're going to reboot it here. And our server, okay, if you see server, our server is ready. Let's install it. Is booting. Yes, is still going through. Yes. So Active Directory and domain controller is installed. Click here. I'm just going to. Oh, what happened? Yeah, it's just part of now. It's going to restart it basically. But I forget to rename the computer name to server A. It's not going to affect too much, but it's easy for monitoring purpose. When you check your DNS and you check your other things, you can easily recognize the server. I don't know what happened with NS. It's just going through. It's going through. Let's see. Yes, this is right. So now I'm just going to do the same thing with ESXi-B. Just to remove the disk. Okay, enter here. So it will take a little bit time. Meanwhile, it's installing. Yeah. So NAS little bit take time, but it just installed now. NAS is installed now. ESXi A installed. Server Edge installed. Active Directory installed. Now I'm just going to configure slowly all these things. First of all, we are going to configure NAS first. Okay. So it's a little bit tricky, not tricky one, but just you have to read through it what you are doing. Okay. So here we are going to change our static IP address. So config network interface, click enter one. So it's asking, okay, selected an interface. So we are, because LE0 is our interface, so and it's number one on the number one, so we press number one. Okay, here and enter, and then reset network configuration. Yes, we have to reset it. Okay. We need to manually reset. So okay, let take time. So right, it happened. Press wrong key sometime. Okay, it will go to reset the card, but we'll see. Meanwhile, it's just taking time. Server taking time. It's just going to take time. It's installing, waiting. So come on. Okay. Let's do it this same drill again. This time we're going to press the right buttons. Okay, one. I'm just going to press no. So now, so we can put a manually. We do not need a DSCP in this because we are going to put a static IP address. So we are going to put configure IPv4. Yes. Interface name. Here you have to type the name E0. Okay. enter. So now you have to put the IP address for 192.168.0 dot. I'm not sure what lab is giving. You can give any IP address, but then you have to monitor that thing all the time. You have to use that IP address. Okay, S24. Enter. We are not going to configure the IPv6. No. Restarting network. Okay. So that's how I configured that network on this one. It's going to boot up again. Meanwhile, I'm just going to check server A is still booting. ESXi A is ready, B is ready, both are ready. So once I configure this nest, then we will move to ESXi A and B. So in one thing we have to do, one other thing we have to do in the nest here, that we have to change our DNS. Okay, so and then we are going to, then after that we can access that. Uh, so then we can access what is this GUI stuff easily. Okay. Okay, so again, so here, if you check it out, the number is 6 for configure DNS. Okay, so number 6, we are going to press it, enter. So we have to put domain name is which we configure adatom.com. So DNS IP address would be 196.192.160.1. Okay, that's it. And we're just going to put name server blank. Server DNS is configured. Okay, so that's what we need to do here mostly. And after that, you do not need to do anything much here. If everything's fine, just going to reboot it just for precaution, or so that all the settings get applied. And reboot, yes. And now after that, now we are going to access a NAS from our server A. So I'm just going to go back here. Server A is ready. Okay, password. So here we are. Okay, one thing I have to do in this one first. Let me do first, and then we will ready to move. Okay, so I'm just going to go here and change the name of the server. Change the name server A. Okay, you can put any name, whatever name you're comfortable with. Okay, it will go to restart it. Meanwhile, it sees NAS. It's just rebooting, still rebooting. Now I'm just going to configure this ESXi A and B. Okay, so you have to be read carefully these things. So is everything written here? You have to just follow. For example, if asking F22 customizing, so I'm just going to ask password which we created when we install this ESXi A and B. So here we are going to start with the config management network. Okay, so here if you have to use your arrow keys. So I'm just going to use IPv4. Here I have to use static IP For that you have to use space key and go back there. 192.168.0.1. Oh, sorry, I think it's 5 as our lab says. And default gateway I'm going to put 192.168.0.1, and I'm just going to put enter. And IPv6 I'm just going to disable it, enter. And DNS configuration I'm just going to use on mine, so 192.168.0.1. okay, the host name would be ESXi.com. Okay, and done. So that's all we need now. Put a escape button and go to ask okay, apply the changes, yes. Okay, and it's going to restart it now. Meanwhile it's restarting, we are going to apply the same settings on ESXi-B. Okay, so same way, same drill. Have to put a password. Maybe I put the wrong. Sometime I'm just same drill. F2 config management. Okay, changing static IP 0.6 and default gateway 192.168.0.1. Okay, press enter. IPv6 I'm just going to disable it, enter. DNS configuration following 192.168.0.1. Host would be ESXi-B dot editum.com. Enter. I'm going to put escape. It's going to ask apply. Yes. So it's going to take a restart. Meanwhile, I think ESXi-B is restarting. This one is restarting. NAS is done. Now we are working on the server. Back here. Password. Okay. Okay guys, so now our server is almost configured. Okay, one thing I'm just going to do it, I'm just going to turn out my firewall. It's not necessary, but it just sometimes just give trouble. Okay, so we have to check it out. Firewall status and should be on. So I'm just going to turn down all the firewall stuff. It should not be in the real scenarios, but here we wanted to make sure we are just doing everything quickly without any trouble. So I'm just going to check the connectivity for all the come on. in the command prompt. So I'm just going to check pinging all their 92.168.0.5. So I'm pinging that thing 6 and 8. So the network is fine. Okay, and one thing I just want to double check that my DNS is properly configured. The both reverse join and backward join are properly configured. So if you can check, I can remove this thing. Okay, and reverse join. So I have to create another reverse join because it's necessary for working properly. DNS 0. Okay, allow both connections. So now reverse join is created. Okay, I'm just going to update all this server data files, clear cache, and let's check this thing. Okay, server A should be right. Okay, so I'm just going to create a record ESXi A 192.168.0.5 PTR record as well. Add it. Okay, then ESXi-B 192.168.0.6. Okay, and another record called NAS 192.168.0.8. Okay, now it's updated and should be reverse join. I'm just going to check, update, refresh, check this one. Yes, now it's working fine. So my DNS is right. All these things seems okay. Now we are just going to do one thing, which is necessary when we have to access our what do you call different tools. So I'm just going to put drag and drop my Chrome standalone installer. So I'm just going to install this thing so we can access over ESXi A, NAS, and all these labs. Okay, so Chrome is installed. So I'm just going to skip this thing. We don't need anything in this one. No thanks. So I have to access all these. So first of all, I'm just going to access what I have to access first. Okay, configure NAS first. Okay, 192.168.0.8. Okay, so I'm just going to put a root. Password would be whatever you put while when you was creating. Come on. Yes. Okay. All right. So this is our NAS. First, see you will going to see here. So first of all, you have to go in the service tab. Okay. So you have to make sure that all the services, necessary services, are turned on. Okay, it's taking time a little bit. See here, you can see services. So I think two or three services which we need. One is ESXi. One is ESXi and NFS. Okay, and one thing we need to have solidly smart is enabled. Okay, one thing I just click on these ones as well because sometimes you reboot it just give you trouble. Okay, so that is services. And second thing which we have to go now, we have to go on storage pool. Then no pool, so click on disk. Okay, there is only one disk. Okay, and which is ADA0. So what we are going to do is here we are going to add 4 disks in our machine, which we are going to go in the lab back in the NAS machine, and we are going to click on the main machine and going on setting and hard drive. So I'm just going to I think 50 GB each if we need it. Okay, 100 GB. How much this ask? Okay, 100 GB per. Asking for 100 GB. Lab is asking basically, and you can change it as per your requirement. If you want, you can give a little bit more, little bit less. That doesn't make any big difference. Okay, so I'm just going to put 100 GB. Okay, and edit another disk. Same drill. 100 GB. So make sure you select ASCII, not other disk types. Okay, 100 GB. So 1, 2, 3, and another hard drive. So there will be 400 gigabyte of disks I attached with the machine. Okay, good. All right. Now it's just going to saving the machines and restoring the virtual status again. Okay. Basically rebooting. Oh, could not be added. Okay. Okay, it's asking something not right. We didn't did right something. Okay. So what I'll do, give me a second. I'm just going to shut down this machine first. Then I'm going to add the disks. Okay, meanwhile we're just going to access 192.168.5. So ESXi A. So click processing. So same deal, you put password here, whatever password you created. So this is our ESXi A. Okay, so here you will going to find all the virtual machines. Here you're going to find all the storage devices. Okay, and here you're going to find the networking part of it. So basically 3 4 thing. Okay, so there are a lot of other things: console, refreshing, in storage, networking, virtual switches, physical NICs, VM kernel, XTP, IP stack, firewall rules. Okay, storage, adapters. Okay, and devices and persistent memory. Okay, all these things we are here. So basically these are disks. Okay, and the same way we are just going to access ESXi-B. You can access either IP address or the domain name. So if your DNS is configured properly, then there should not be any issue. So this is ESXi-B, and NAS is shut down. Now I'm just going to go back and edit disks. It's already in. Okay, let's start it again. Case booting. Let's check the okay. Shit, man, this is again. I'm just sometime I mistype. Okay, so this is same drill. It's ESXi A and B. So now we are just going to put vCenter on ESXi-B. Okay, so if I check this one, so we have configured this thing properly, this thing. Okay, and we have configured these things, and now I'm just going to configure this NFS data store on NAS. NAS we already created, but we are just going to create NFS pools now, and this VMware center is left. So that's what we are going to do now. So let me see, it's just taking time a little bit. Okay, so one thing is, a lot of time is confusing when we are going to install vCenter. So what you have to do is you have to copy the vCenter from your host to drag it here, so that you can create, for example, this is a vCenter, this is ISO image, so you have to drag it here in the server. Okay, and then you create a, then you have to mount it, and then you can boot from here. Okay, so that is a step where a lot of students get confused. Okay, so you go in C drive and just drag the ISO image here in C drive in server A. Let me see. Yeah, so NAS is fine again. I'm just going to refresh the, meanwhile it's copying. Okay, so this is copying. Okay, and you copied this one in C drive, and then you right click and click on mount. Okay, so when you're going to click mount, this look like a pair, it will look like a pair, or you can click on this PC and here as a disk you can find. And then you go here on the VCSA UI installer, not CLI installer. Okay, and then you have to install Windows 32, and then you click here. I'll come back here when we start. So first I'm configuring NAS. Okay, so I'm just going to put same thing here, login. Now just go to the disk part and let's see if the disks are recognized or not. Yeah, so you can see all the disks are here. Okay, and then we going to create a pool here. So I'm just going to add a pool, create a new pool. So here I'm just going to write NFS. You can write anything. It's not necessary that you just write this particular term. It's just a name for any pool you can create. Okay, whatever pool you want, name you want the pool, you can create it. So but I'm just using these things. So I'm using two images, two disks. Be careful here, this is an interface, so you select both images and just click on this arrow, and these will be here, and then you select all both images. Okay, and then you're going to create a pool. Click here and create, confirm. It will says the disk, all the data will be deleted. So click here, and that's the pool is created. Disk pool will be created like this. Okay, because it's going to format it, and then you're going to create it. Sometime it take time. It depend on your disk speed, read and write speed. Sometime it take not much time. Yeah, it's created now. So NFS pool is here. Okay, so now I'm just going to give two things. So we are going to provide a permission so we can access. So you have to go permissions to our NFS pools. So I'm just going to go in sharing, and then I have to click on Unix NFS permissions. Okay, and I have to click on add button here, and then I have to, you will going to find this interface, then click on this folder, you're going to find mount, and then you're going to click here NFS pool. This is created and all disks. Okay, and then you have to click on advanced mode. Okay, so here you have to change the uh, user map root users and map root group. So you have to choose root and wheel. Other things you just leave as it is. Okay, and that you can just click on the save, and it will going to keep all the pool. But careful, you have to keep this path here. Okay, path copied when. So that's what you need to do in the NAS part, storage part, and then we go back here in our main stuff, on in your where we left this vCenter part. So this is the NAS part is completed. So now we are going to we are going to install a vSphere or vCenter. Okay, so you have to double click on the installer. So I explained how we reached here. So you click on installer, and one thing we have to do here in the ESXi-B, that we have to add a disk, because we didn't add any disk. We just added only one disk. Okay, so I'm just going to restart this thing, shut down. Okay, let's do shut down properly, so that make sure we are not messing up this lab. iPhone 1. Okay, and F2. So now I'm just going to add another disk. So in that disk we will going to install uh, vCenter. Okay, it's sometime takes till time. System has been halted. Okay, so now it's good. So I'm just going to create a disk here. Let me create same size disk. Okay, 150. Okay, done. And I'm just going to create booted up again. Okay, so we have to do this thing. Just I have to make sure that this is right. Yes, it's coming back. So I'm just going to make sure ESXi-B is this one. Okay. Okay. Now we go on storage. Okay, and we're going devices, and there you will find the new disk. So this is our disk, and no, this is not our disk. Okay, so we have to find another one. Yeah, this one is newly added disk. So I'm just going to put the name called data store vCenter. Okay, using full disks and finish. Yes, it's going to take a little bit time, but it's already done. It depends on your hard drives how fast it is. Let me check the data storage here. So in this one we are going to put vCenter. So I'm just going to click come back on server A, and I'm going to click on install. Next, deploy, accept the term and conditions. Here this is important part. We have to put an IP address for that ESXi-B, where we are going to put our vCenter root and password, whatever password the ESXi-B has. Okay, yes. Okay, so here I'm just going to click create the name vCenter server, putting a password here. Be careful when you create these passwords, you have to remember this thing. It happened multiple times that okay, it's not right. You have to make sure you remember this thing. because no lot of time we forget and it just messed the life. Okay, so we have a tiny second. You don't need to change anything here. You have to be careful. You have to put data store on vCenter. Okay, and you have to click on this thin disk mode. If you don't, if you're not going to click on thin disk mode, the disk management, the space management, resource management will not be helpful in our small environment. We need to put a thin provision so that only resources which is used or required will be used. Okay. So I'm just going to put in data store vCenter next, and here we have to put our IP address. So we are going to put 192.168.0.7, I think, for our vCenter of what's the, yeah, so 255.255.255.0 default gateway, DNS dot 0.1. Rest we have to leave as it is. Double check, finish. So now it's going to take a little bit time. Sometime it take time, sometimes not. It depend on or your underneath hardware and read and write speed of your hard drives and all these things. And it's now deploying the vCenter on ESXi B.